afternoon to everyone, each of our guests. My name is Nandaj. This is Gauri. We are a part of Bannerman Live. We are a small football media group. We just discuss about Indian football. We are basically a bunch of football fans who wanted to create a space where we could discuss football, Indian football, European football, all kinds of football, and the problems, the teams, the ins and outs of the beautiful game. I'll just introduce everyone to so that everyone knows who each panelist is. So first we have Dr. Manisha Shah. She's been running a Kahani Sports Academy in Ahmedabad since 2006. She is one of the organizers of the biggest tournament, one of the biggest tournaments in Ahmedabad. Then we have Preksha Chaurasia. She is a Indian national team super fan. She's been featured on the Premier League. A couple of articles of hers has been featured on the Premier League. We then have Anaga Janaki Raman. She's a Maharashtra representative at the national level, a player of the Indian Women's League. She's also played in Netherlands and London. And then last but not least, we have Prem, who's the founder and organizational head of Surat FC Club, and he also runs his own club. So basically, the theme for today's meeting podcast is the women's football in India, the problems that occur at the grassroots level, at the higher level, and some possible solutions that you guys who are very close to the game in different capacities can possibly provide us, and the future as to how this improvements can be made to make it a viable sport amongst women in India.
So my first question is for you guys, Preksha ma'am, Anaga ma'am, and Manisha ma'am. How did you first get interested in the sport, and what has your journey been like until now?
So for me, I started supporting Indian football after watching the heartfelt video of Sunil Shetty so in 2018, like right before Intercontinental Cup. I used to watch European football, but I wasn't really into Indian football due to whatever reasons. We tend to underestimate our clubs. So when I watched that video, I felt really bad that being an Indian, we're not supporting our own team that is literally giving their heart and soul toward the game. So then I went to the stadium and watched the Intercontinental Cup against Kenya and the final. And ever since, I have just made it a point to support Indian football in whatever capacity I can to make people more aware about it. And I ensure that whatever match is happening, at least in Bombay, I'm in the stadium watching it, be it whoever, be it under 17 girls or women's or the men's match. Yeah, so that's how my journey with Indian football per se started.
I think the men's are exposed to a lot more of tournaments than the women's. So it was Srinu Shetty's video that inspired me to support the Indian team, and I also saw the under 17 that Tri Nation that happened in Mumbai.
Yeah, the friends.
One of my juniors is representing. Yeah, she's representing India. So I think that was one of the major tournaments that helped me support them, and also because our former national player Bala Devi, she's been selected at Rangers FC, which is a really big club. So I think that got me supporting the women's, and the men's obviously Chetri, Ian Vijayan, Bhaichang Bhutia. So all these players, I have been following them for a long time. So I think the support is on, and yeah, that's how my journey started supporting the national side.
My journey is a little bit different because I was a mother and sports person myself, so always wanted my kids to have some sports, and especially a team game when they were young. So that's how for them I got into the football, and that's how I started the academy coaching and things like that. And then I fell in love with the game. And also I thought being a lady, and there were not so much, there was nothing much for female in Ahmedabad at that time when I started in 2006. So that also interested me more to do something about more for this game. And that's how my journey started with football. I fell in love with it, and now actually, for since last 2 years, I have started playing on my own also, and I just love this game. And since last 6 months, I have also started following the Indian team, like wherever they play. I plan that I'll go and watch the game also and support them. But then lockdown came, so everything is now at standstill.
My cousin was a national football player. She is also a co-founder of our club, and she always faced the issue of not having a good Gujarat team. And she went to nationals for 2 or 3 times, and still they haven't had a good team to compete. So from then onwards, we decided that we need to change the football culture in our city. And then that's how we started with the idea of creating a football culture and starting with a football academy.
So, as Ms. Anaga and Ms. Preksha rightly pointed out, the lack of budget allocations for women's football is a big problem in India. So, a fact is that less than 5% of the All India Football Federation's annual budget are allocated to women's football. In fact, it has been declining over the years. In 2014 and 15, it stood at 5.53 crore per annum, while the same number in 2017-18 season fell to 2.39 crores. So my question to all of you guys is, what do you think are the reasons for women's sports not getting enough coverage and media attention, unlike their male counterparts? Despite the fact that the women's football team, is ranked 57th worldwide as compared to the male counterparts who stand at 160th right now.
So I'll say the first and very important reason is that being women, we don't support it. So that is very important reason that we have to stand up for our own thing, own rights and everything. Instead of blaming it on, instead of playing a blame game, it is better that we take the responsibility and we take it further. We fight for it. Yes, there is a problem of support, but I think that is everywhere in the world. Wherever you go, there is always a problem of supporting a women's sports for some reason. But if we support it, it will definitely come up for sure.
I think also to add to Manisha ma'am's point, it is so when we see men playing, it just comes naturally to us. Like it's like organically, okay, men will be playing football or men will be playing sports. But for females, or for women rather, it is more so, you need to additionally, or like, you need to pitch in the idea that, okay, like they can play football as well. You need to invest into it. You cannot be, हाँ ठीक है मतलब इसमें इतना पैसा generate नहीं होता. People don't watch women's football. That is because people will not come to the stadium if you do not advertise it well. If you do not broadcast it on TV, then people will not be watching it, and then you will not be generating revenue. So to generate revenue, first of all, you need to start investing into it. So if AIFF does not, like, I'm not putting any blame, but if you do not invest into it, then women's football will never rise. Then you cannot put it on the turnover or the fact that women are not generating as much revenue as men's, as ISL or I League or the men's matches are. So yeah, like we need to understand the fact that if you invest, you will get that turnover. And of course, we do have a very capable team. You can see Bala Devi. You can see the under-17 girls team. You can watch Shilki Devi. All of these are very, very good players. So yeah, we need to start investing. We need to understand that.
I would agree with Manisha ma'am that we need to have a culture of watching women's football, or maybe watching any women's sports game in families. We always have a culture of watching cricket together, and especially men's sports. But having a culture, having a habit of getting into these games is very important. And if it is inculcated in child from childhood, then it becomes very easy, it becomes very organical to grow, what I think.
All the points have been mentioned, but yes, there is a cultural block when it comes to the men's and women's playing the same sport. I think the support is very important from an individual level as well as collectively. There needs to be enough support for the women's side, and I think it's because of lack of exposure. The number of tournaments the men's play and the women's play, be it the Asian Cup or the SAF Cup, I think the more number of tournaments they're exposed to, I think they'll be that should be good for media to cover or support. It all starts from support, but I think it should change when the I think the women's are going to play the Asian Cup and the FIFA Under 17 World Cup being hosted in India next year. That should be a big milestone for the women's football in India, for the development of women's football in India.
So,
But ma'am, just one follow-up question, ma'am, Ms. Anaga. So, do you think the number of matches or the practice games that are being played right now enough for our team to be able to compete at much bigger levels like the Asian Cup or say the Under 17 World Cup?
No.
No, there needs to be an upgrade because the men they play a lot of international friendlies against Nepal or Maldives or Qatar. So I think international friendlies should be encouraged for women because when you're playing at the World Cup level, it's the highest form of football in the world. So when you're competing against teams like Germany, Spain, the level of intensity just increases. So there should be an increase in the friendly matches they play, and that's basically exposure to tournaments.
I think that is true for both men's and women's. We don't get that much of exposure in terms of teams. And also the another problem I can see is that we are not investing in the grassroots development. AIFF is just picking up the players at after 15. Instead, they should spot the selection. I mean, they should spot at earlier age and try to develop them. Like this year, if you look at the Gujarat's team, especially for female team, I mean, they did wonderful in under 17 and 13 age group. But then they don't get the opportunity because still Gujarat is not on the radar screen of All India Football Federation. They just look at some main states and they do the selection from there. So also if they start doing the scratch selection from the grassroots level and develop that, players will be much more beneficial to the country than just picking them from the national tournament and looking at only the qualifying rounds. I still have some girls who cannot come in the shorts and t-shirt to the ground. They have to come in the track pant and stuff like that. So that culture is still here in Ahmedabad. They have been playing football for last 3-4 years, but still that problem is there. Second is getting sponsorship for anything, for tournament or encouraging some girls to play football. That is also not there. There is no encouragement from their family also, because they also still that thinking is still there. What's the point of playing? There are so many benefits other than representing at national level. There are other benefits also, even for, and especially for women, there are so many benefits in terms of confidence, gaining the confidence, or in terms of fitness level, in terms of health benefits. Everything is there, but still they don't consider it as a brain. And also not too many opportunities available in whatever city or district, not too many opportunities available. So that's another reason for not them to pursue the game.
Slowly but steadily, things are changing, mindsets are changing. As I can say that in our academy, we had around 7 national players last year, out of them three were women. So we can see the gradual growth which is happening. So hopefully the future is bright, I guess.
I agree with him. So with under 17 FIFA friendlies that we had recently, so the Mumbai Stadium, there was just one section that was occupied. And usme se bhi, there was so many coaches from school who had brought their whole choti choti ladkiyon ka team to make them watch the match. So I'm pretty sure that must have been an inspiration for them to watch, to understand how they are playing the game. And you could see the level of excitement in them, how invested they were in football. So I think with these, the fact that India will be hosting two major tournaments, I think we will be witnessing changes in the perspective regarding Indian.
One thing that comes to mind is perhaps the fact that so many people question the career choice of being a women's footballer is because of the existing wage gap that is present right now between women's and men's football. While countries like France and more recently Brazil have joined the issue, to equalize the pay for men's and women's teams. Uh, when do you think the AIFF would be taking such a step?
One opinion was that this is a really good step towards women's equality, and then another opinion was saying that they should not get equally paid because they don't get the same revenue for the organization. But I guess it's on AIFF. We can't decide what, but what we can do is work on grassroots level. As soon as things will get more interested, as soon as people will start watching women's football team more and more, then automatically they have to start paying them more. So I guess instead of hoping AIFF to do the equal pay, instead of that, we can start working on grassroots levels and create a culture of football for women and men. Yeah.
Anyone else? Anaga, what do you think about this?
I think I'll agree with what he said because you can't just expect them to, suddenly say equal pay because it's a lot that goes. And the countries that have agreed for the equal pay have, I think, started a movement that needs to be supported by other countries. And I think in the future, we should hope that it happens in India as well.
So I think I do not see it happening anytime soon because we still, I mean, AIFF, I think it will take some time. But like Anaga said, that with time, I think with the movements that we as fans would initiate and the players would initiate, once we start getting that much exposure, I think with that, the change in wage rates should be introduced. We need it, definitely we need it. But yeah, with time, I think.
I think as Preksha said and everyone said, I do agree that it will take time. There is no overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. But before they do that, I think exposure and the training facilities, those are very important aspect. And at least, if not the financial reward, but at least if they can develop the infrastructure and give the opportunities, that is also more than enough for now to bring the game alive.
So we all agree that India has a unequal status with respect to men and women in the country, not only in sports but everything else in common society. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to ask Anaga, Manisha ma'am, Preksha about certain systemic issues from that arise from gender inequality or the misogyny that is prevalent in this country. Certain issues that you might have faced in your football journey.
I'm not a footballer, so I cannot answer with with the perspective of being a footballer. But as a football fan, I think a lot of people are surprised that women can support football as well. So that ideology comes कि अगर football है तो naturally men will be following it. So to make your presence felt कि हम भी है and we do support football. be it whoever, be it whatever, Indian football or European football. So that was a task in the initial stage. But then I think with over time, times are changing and people have started accepting that women can support sports as well.
Manisha ma'am, your thoughts as to, you started this academy in 2006, and before that there was not a lot of academy, and as a woman entrepreneur, as a woman founder, what were some of your personal hurdles that you faced?
Well, there is no life without having challenges and hurdles. So everyone has to face it. And being a woman, and it was considered as a man's game. So always there were difficulties and hurdles. And even today there are some hurdles and difficulties. I do face it. But then sitting and thinking about them is not going to take us anywhere. So there is always, I mean, there is inequality to a certain extent, but now we are coming out of it slowly. And hopefully it will happen sooner. I mean, if it happens sooner, it's better for us than anything else, I would say.
Anaga, as a player from the grassroots, what were some of your problems that you might have faced?
So initially, when I started playing, there was statements being made that it is a men's sport, and I wouldn't be able to cope up with it or perform at like to the men's level. But I think it changed because support is very very crucial, and my parents have always supported me. So till date, I train with the boys. I don't believe in boys and girls training separately because it's one sport and the goal is similar. So I train with the boys, just not to make a statement, but just to make people aware that girls also can perform as the boys do. There should be no cultural block or gap when it comes to football because it is one sport and the support needs to be there for all this to happen.
And I agree with Anaga. Even in our academy, we don't have different training for both the genders. And when you see the game playing, you can't spot the difference between woman is playing or man is playing. It's the same game. It's the same, and still women are doing really great in the game. So yeah, when you are in the game, there is no difference between woman and man. It's the same game. It's the same ball.
That's a very nice sentiment to echo, Prem. Thank you for that. And let's, as we mentioned about the FIFA World Cup that is going to happen next year, FIFA Women's Under 17 World Cup. I'd like to ask you all about how do you think a success in this World Cup will impact the future generation of women footballers who would perhaps say look at that World Cup and be motivated themselves to enter the game and to make a career in the particular game, in this game.
So the World Cup being hosted in India is, I think, a great opportunity for players, fans, and coaches. This group of players, I've met them, and they're young talents. So once they get exposed to a tournament like the World Cup, it's going to be like a development because they are going to be future representatives of the senior women's team. So one of my juniors is in the squad, and she talks to me about their training modules and how they're preparing for the World Cup. So I think it's huge, and I think they'll have huge support from from everyone, from be it coaches or parents or players. To see India perform at the World Cup is a huge achievement. So I think it should encourage more players to play football, to not only play but to support the football. So I think the World Cup is going to be huge, and yeah.
Ma'am?
So I'm very excited because we are going to get some matches in Ahmedabad also. And that's a good thing that AIFF is doing now, that they are spreading just not from the 5 top states, but also
Exactly.
to other states. And but I would also suggest if AIFF can take team around to each state or some districts, main districts of the state, at least before the World Cup, just for, uh, introducing them, that will be a huge support for, I mean, they will can develop the huge publicity for this game, and that will give a game a big go.
I guess women team are doing their part. They are preparing really hard and working really hard to, compete at their best level. But what we can do is, our success would be that when India is playing, the stadium is full, and that's what the another success level that we should work on. That's where we can work on. So I guess even we have started spreading more news about women football, and we have take a pledge that we will spread as much news about football, women football, as much as we spread about men. So yeah, if we start from now, we can reach that point next year.
A few months back, Ms. Tanvi Hans brought to attention the poor state of football infrastructure in India, and so did Ms. Manisha. Uh, so, it is worth asking if our players are against the rival teams or against the poor infrastructure, and ma'am, to what an extent do you think infrastructure is to be blamed for the poor state of Indian football, and how the organizing of upcoming major tournaments like the under 17 World Cup and Asian Cup going to help in improving the infrastructure facilities?
I mean, I'm again and again saying the same issue, that AIFF need to get out of these 5 states and go to the all other states and do the equal distribution of the fundings, equal distribution of infrastructure, supporting, and all those things. If that happens, then and then we can we can see some development, because everyone is facing the problem of infrastructure. Today, if we talk about Gujarat State Football Association or Ahmedabad District Football Association, or none of the district football association in Gujarat has any kind of tie-up with any ground, football ground, where they can play whenever they want to. So that is a big issue. Now that they are trying to resolve it by joining hands with the Sports Authority of India, because they have infrastructure everywhere. But that will also take some time. But then also all the state association also they also need to become very, active. So then and then they can pursue whatever they want to see the development in the game.
But I think the major one is injuries, because the amount of effort that goes to get back into shape from recovery, I think a lot of time goes in that. And she's right about not just the ground, but everything else. So I had been to Manipur, and the infrastructure was so poor that they didn't have separate washrooms for men and women, and so there was no space for having even a bath on a daily basis. So I've seen players that have survived for weeks having stayed without a bath. So it's not only in terms of the grounds. I think overall there has to be initiative and support from the government authorities when it comes to infrastructure.
So we discussed about certain problems that are faced by the women football players in our country. I'd like to open the floor and ask for your individual opinions as to a couple of solutions that we can have. like a different kind of solution. We have already discussed a couple of them, but like I'd just like to get your thoughts as to what next. Like the after the under-17 World Cup, like apart from that, what is the thing that as fans we can do, as a country we can do, as an organization the AIFF should do, as a culture that we can do to encourage the rise of women's sport in India?
I think from grassroots level, what we can do is share and support as much as we can. So from even in the house level, just talking about these things, talking about women's team, what they are up to, what they have done, that can even support my younger cousins. They realizing that, oh, there is a whole world of women's football, and we have a really great team of India. So more and more spreading and sharing on social media as well, and supporting them as much as we can, that can help a lot.
Naga?
Yeah, I think in terms of exposure, when it comes to media or broadcasting or international friendlies, more exposure to tournaments, not at the national level, but basic at the district, state level. And also the men's have different age categories. They have an under 15 side, under 17 side, under 21 side, and then they go to the senior women, senior men. So I think the women's also need different age categories, so that there should be an under 15, under 17, under 21 side. So that, there's more support and there's more awareness that there are so many age categories that perform at an international level. I think exposure needs to be there.
So everyone, thank you for such a great discussion. It's been an absolute pleasure and joy to have you here. And thank you so much to take your time off on a Sunday afternoon to talk to us about women's football. we sorry, we hope the sport increases by leaps and bounds in the coming years. And that's it exactly then. So this is Bannerman signing off for the video. Thank you so much, and best of luck in your future endeavors and journeys.